Hi everyone. I'm not sure where you might be or when you might be listening to this, but I'd like to share on a topic today that has become bigger in my heart. There's so much confusion in our world today. There's so much turmoil and so many people confused and uncertain as to questioning who they are or what they're like. And I'd just like to share from my heart about a topic that I'm calling God made you uniquely male or female. That's the way God made us. That's the way He always planned for us to be. And so I'd like to just share the verse from Genesis 1:26 through 28. It says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness.' So God created him, male and female, He created them. And then God blessed them and said to them, 'Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it.'" Wow. Think about that. God planned for us to be like Him. We're made in His image. In fact, I've even heard it said that it talks about His span of His hand is the same as man's when it talks about it in Scripture. We are made in His likeness, but also, in His image, but also His likeness, which in the Message Bible it says, "Let us make human beings in our image, making them reflect our nature." Wow. We are meant to be like Him on the outside and on the inside. You know, a relationship is what we were all made for. Relationships are what allow us to connect with God and with each other. And whether it's with another friend of the same sex or one of the opposite sex, we are meant to know not only their physical bodies, what they look like on the outside, but to know what their heart is like. And that means getting to know what they like to do, what their giftings are, how they have fun, what they like and don't like. And those all come by spending time together, getting to know each other, and knowing the differences of our personalities. You see, we were made to be like God and created uniquely male and female. God is not masculine. God is not a man or a woman, but He does have those qualities that are both male and female because He's the one that created us. And so He created women to have more of His feminine qualities and men to have more of His male qualities. But that is where we get to the realization that it's not our outward flesh. It's not our outward flesh bodies that He's really talking about us getting to know, but getting to know each other's hearts. When we get to know God and all that He is, that takes time. It's taken me a lot of years of walking with Him, and I still feel like I've only just begun to get to know Him. And it takes time to get to know another person. So God always planned for us to live out of knowing Him, and then that would be the way we would live out in our flesh. Living our lives filled with Him is what He always planned. But when we start a relationship with another person, getting to know their heart through conversation and friendship is what I'm wanting to really highlight to you all today, because we have counseled several couples before they get married, and some of those that did get married, and we had only the opportunity to talk with them after they got married, and they got involved with a physical relationship very quickly when they first met. And unfortunately, what that does is it has a tendency to shut down growing the friendship and communication and conversation, because we become focused on a physical relationship and not the heart of the other person. Most of those people that either married or did not marry, they broke up and they ended in divorce. They were not able to handle the hard times because they really didn't understand each other. They really didn't know each other. They only knew a part of that other person. So when God made man and woman, He made them to complement each other, and each of them showing a part of the fullness of God. Therefore, that's the reason I believe the enemy fights marriage and men and women coming together, because we are the full image of God to the world. And that's what I want you to realize. And yet, unfortunately, Adam and Eve chose to act independently of God. And therefore, they chose to walk and not follow in their own ways and not follow God's ways. Therefore, there's a true masculine and there's a fallen masculine. There's a true feminine and a fallen feminine. I just want you to recognize that there's a difference. And so I'd like to share a few of those qualities with each of you right now. The true masculine is one that's strong and able to do many things well and powerful. You know, my husband can do many things that are because of his strength that I can't do. That's the way God made him. He's meant to be a protector, a provider, and he's meant to be a father. A father, not just fathering a child, but sowing all of the things that every child needs to know of how to live life. He can be decisive, analytical. He's meant to be the leader of the home and a pursuer of a woman and her heart. The fallen masculine, however, are some of those qualities that we just see around us that may not be very pleasant. They can be hard, they can be silent and not share their hearts. They can be tough and harsh, possibly physically or verbally with their tongue. They can be focused on themselves and somewhat prideful, and sometimes they can be very private and not share their heart. But one of the qualities that I think stands out sometimes is how dominating and domineering and controlling a man can be. And he expects to be served. He's the head of the house and he expects that woman to submit, and therefore he treats women more like a piece of property or a slave than a helpmate or a godly, a blessed, valuable person from God. And the true feminine, we've got a soft, loving, caring, nurturing, bringing comfort to many, especially her children. She's a good receiver. She can be gentle, compassionate, and courageous. I was sharing with someone that a mother bear will, if anything comes at her cubs, she was ferocious and she will stand off. Well, guess what? As a woman, God made us to be strong and courageous, that we will fight for our children. And that's a quality that the true feminine has. They can be understanding, a peacemaker, selfless, focusing on others, serving others, a lover of beauty, and tender to many people. The fallen feminine, however, has some of similar characteristics. They can be very manipulative and controlling, just like a man can. They can be very strong when they are when she doesn't get her way or the man isn't taking the lead, which is what I did. I tried to be that strong woman, taking and filling in the gaps where my husband wasn't walking in his true masculine role when we were first married, and therefore I thwarted his ability to be all that he was called to be. They can be easily offended, they can be compulsive, they, as I said, manipulative and controlling, but one of the things I'd say is big is that they can cut with their words. My words could cut. If I wasn't in a good place, I would say words with a harsh tone, which didn't help. That was not my true feminine. They can hate men and treat them poorly, and they can operate out of fear. All of those fallen qualities were never meant to happen, but they have because we live in a broken world. Relationships are meant to be valued, and we are meant to work on them, and they're blessed when we live in our true identity and follow in God's ways. Now, I'd like to share just briefly about some of the differences between men and women, and that literally, we are meant to complement each other, as I already mentioned. That's a part of a covenant. Having one be stronger and one be weaker, and you come together, and that makes the difference. That fills in the gaps, so to speak. But understanding, validating the differences between men and women is a great way to appreciate your spouse and reduce areas of conflict. A man and a woman process things differently and respond to situations differently. But when we recognize that those are differences that are the way that God made us, then it doesn't have to lead to conflict. I'm aware that if I can recognize that my husband's going to respond and react differently, I don't have to react to him. Our differences aren't meant to cause negative things like fear and guilt and shame and discouragement. And to add to that, to get ungodly beliefs or lies that we believe that men are always going to be a certain way or women are going to be a certain way. We just need to recognize we have differences and value the differences. There are other reasons why we have reactions between the differences between men and women because of our previous experiences, because of hurts and wounds and judgments or relationship issues we had with our parents or someone else. All those things can cause issues. we were in Africa several years ago, and we were sharing about the differences between men and women. And there was a couple there, and they were expecting their third child. And literally, they came to us after we shared these differences between men and women, and they told us that they realized that a large part of their conflict was all connected with the differences between men and women. They were able to resolve them, they were able to forgive each other, and rather than ending everything in a very bad way that they had talked to us about, they ended up, their marriage is prospering today, and they're happily even having a larger family. You know, realizing just last night with my husband that something he was doing was sort of bothering me, and I'm thinking, oh, I had just done this preparation for sharing this, and I realized, oh, that's the way he as a man does things, and just not like me. So we can diminish the issues if we just recognize them. But we can respond in ways that are not helpful. We can think that the other person's being weird or that they're wrong, or we can roll our eyes and just tolerate their differences. Just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. Or we can celebrate, validate, and accept each other's differences, just as this African couple did. Typically, when we're dating, we often are looking for someone with strengths that we don't have. And that's the way God planned it. In a covenant, usually the other person that you're looking for they have an area of weakness that they see a strength in you. And that's the way it was for Rick and I when we first met. I saw him as being this very even-keeled, peaceful, wonderful man, while I had emotions that went up and down, and I really was drawn to him as a result of it. I liked him being that strong, silent person who was just quiet and comfortable with me. And yet after a couple of years, I thought, don't you get excited about anything? The very thing that had drawn me to him was becoming a source of irritation almost. I want you to recognize that literally opposites attract. And so some of the times when you may really like what that other person has, then down the road, it might be an area you have to recognize, oh, that's the way God made them. And you need to recognize that you can be thankful for that. It's important for us to recognize, honor, value, and understand and delight in our mate's differences. Why? Or, I'm going to say, with a person that you may be just starting to go with. You know what? It's all about seeing that other person as a gift from God. And that gift, that treasure from God, is one that you value and that you esteem. Those are where we can become a team and complement each other rather than seeing the differences as an issue. Now, I'm going to share some differences, some qualities about women and then about men, but I want you to recognize that whether you're viewing these in a different culture, you may think your cultural difference doesn't apply to you, but I'm just going to ask you to open your heart and see whether it's an area where your culture may have shut down part of the true feminine, true masculine, because these are part of the way God made us. So the first one for women is that they are very interested in love and relationships. They have a very large capacity to have and know about what a healthy relationship looks like. And so she can tell you where the relationship's at and how it could get better quite easily. A woman's greatest need is to feel loved and connected to her husband's heart or a person's heart. And guess what? Some cultures I know probably don't allow a woman to share much of her heart with her husband or be connected that way. So I just encourage you, men, give it a try. Most of you probably know this one. A woman has 25,000 words a day usually, and a man about 12,500, half the number of words that a woman has. So therefore, you probably will hear a person that you're involved with, if that's feminine, that she will have a lot more words possibly than you as a man. One of the big things I'm going to say that she really appreciates is a man needing to listen to her, or a woman needing to listen to another woman. I can honestly say having someone listen to me is really important. Oftentimes, I can solve my own problems by my husband just listening. All he has to do is say, yes. Doesn't have to do much more than that. and I can solve my own problem, because rather than having everything spin on the inside, it's now able to come out and I can see what needs to happen. Her great need is to know that she's safe and secure. And there's times when in the previous parts of my marriage, I may not have felt safe with my husband. And I mean, he couldn't give me what he didn't have. But guess what? I'm recognizing that I can turn to my Heavenly Father. She needs her husband to recognize her value and worth as a woman, as I was just basically saying. She's not just an object of affection, a piece of property, a servant to meet his needs, but she's a treasure, a gift from God. The next one I'm going to say is conversation and communication allow her to connect relationally through words. And that's something that every woman enjoys. I don't think there's not too many that don't enjoy talking. They can be sensitive. I can be sensitive to other people's feelings, and I can pick up on where they're at because of their body language, the tone of their voice, or just their expressions. A woman thrives on 8 to 10 non-sexual touches every day. We all need to be touched. We all need to be hugged. But I think that's really important for a woman. And on top of that, she can process quite a bit. She can see the big picture. She sees more than just this moment. She can see down the road where this might lead if we continue that way. And so hopefully her husband will recognize that she may have some valid ability to help them go forward. When she's hurt, she can be more emotional. She will usually be more in touch with her emotions and express them. And she can visualize quite easily. She's more prone to seeing, and being intuitive is a large part of what a woman is gifted with. She often has that inner witness, that gut feeling, we call it. And it's not based on logic. She just knows that she knows something on the inside. And she's definitely has a desire to interact and serve other people quite often. So now, while those are not always the same, they are similar. Men, on the other hand, can be extremely focused and seem insensitive to what's going on around them. They literally are in a box. They feel like they are focused so much on one thing that if I don't get in front of my husband and look into his eyes and make sure I have his attention, I'm not sure whether he heard me, because he's so focused. Then when he finishes one box, then he'll put that down and get another box out, whatever he's thinking about next. That's something that's challenging at times, but it's the way God made him. Men's greatest need is to feel respected and appreciated. They need to have positive words spoken to them. As I already said, men have fewer words than women, but men also are very different in the way they solve things. They will sit and very logically be silent and think through and process exactly what they need to do to solve a problem, where a woman is, what I already have shared, is very different. They'll gather all the facts and information and go from there. A man's identity comes from his job and his accomplishments, and men are very goal-oriented. They can be very focused on whatever goal it is that they have, and they will keep pursuing it and continuing it until they complete it. So if you're a man pursuing a woman to be married and wanting her heart, then guess what? You'll pursue her until you get that. Then sometimes you might switch to a different goal, but I encourage you, men, don't switch goals. Recognize that that relationship needs to be invested on a regular basis, on a daily basis. Men oftentimes are emotionally modest and will not share their emotions as easily. So you may have to be sensitive if you can tell they're struggling with something, and just pray for them and then come alongside them to be there to see how you might be able to help. They are also very prone to needing companionship, being admired for what they do well, and know that their advice is valuable. They need to have that affirmation, as I said. They connect better with words and pictures and stories. Word pictures and stories, the way I said that isn't quite accurate, because they can visualize what you're talking about. When you give them that story or word picture, it will give them the ability to connect the dots much easier. If a man can't solve a problem, he can get frustrated. So if I need to have something solved and Rick can't listen, he just gets frustrated because he can't solve my problem. That can be a problem. And as I mentioned, they need touches and affection too, but they have a fragile ego that can be very easily damaged by words and actions. I know I've hurt my husband with my tone of voice and my words at times that have cut him and made him feel vulnerable. And when they hurt in their heart, they shut down emotionally and they withdraw, which is what I'm really saying, what happens if I am not tender with my words. And then I'm going to say they have a tendency to be more factual, logical, intellectual, and linear in their thinking. I may be all over the map, but he will stay in one line of thought until he's finished. And I'm going to say they can be inward focused, self-absorbed, and self-centered, which men think things over and want to get to the point. A few less words is oftentimes what my husband would prefer. So on that note, what I'd really like to do is help you recognize God made you uniquely, male and female. And in this age of confusion, I hope that you can identify that you have been made by God a certain way and know that He has great plans for you and the way He created you. So I'd like to just pray a blessing over each of you and pray that He will clarify anything that's been confusing, or possibly go back over and think about what the truly masculine qualities are that you would like to continue to cultivate and grow so that you can be more and more like your true image and likeness of your Heavenly Father. We need to celebrate and appreciate the differences between us as men and women and not get frustrated with each other. I certainly don't need another Sue. I surely don't think that would be good for anybody. But we need to allow our differences to complement each other and fulfill our role as men and women. So I bless you to know the height, the depth, the width, and the breadth of your Heavenly Father's love and the way He ordained and created you to be, either male or female. And I bless you to walk into a greater revelation of who He is and therefore who you are as you walk on and have grace to walk into relationships and get to know the heart and the inward personality of that other person so that your relationships flourish and grow sweeter and sweeter as the years go by. Bye for now. Thanks so much for listening.